ChatGPT said, if you're over 60, please hear this. A simple piece of fruit, something you've probably eaten your whole life, could quietly be raising your risk of stroke while you sleep. No symptoms. No warning. You go to bed feeling fine and wake up unable to speak, stand, or even move one side of your body. I know this sounds shocking, but as a brain doctor, I've seen it happen too many times. And not from smoking or junk food, but from fruit. Yes, even something that seems so healthy and innocent can become risky when your body changes with age. After 60, your kidneys, liver, blood vessels, and brain don't handle sugar, potassium, or acid the same way. Medications, slower circulation, and nighttime dehydration all add up, turning one simple fruit into a silent threat. That's why today, I want to walk with you through the 6 common fruits that may be doing more harm than good, especially if you eat them at the wrong time or in the wrong combination. If you're watching this and want more practical science-backed tips for protecting your brain and heart, please subscribe. 2. Health. 365. And leave a comment below with the word yes if this topic hits close to home. You might be surprised by which fruits made this list, and why. Let's start with one of the most common. My friend, let's talk about something simple, but potentially dangerous. Bananas. Yes, those soft, sweet, friendly fruits we've all loved since childhood. They're easy to digest, full of nutrients, and feel like a safe snack. But after the age of 60, eating bananas, especially overripe ones, might not be as harmless as you think. Here's why. As bananas ripen, the starches break down into sugar. That's why they taste sweeter the riper they get. But while the taste becomes more pleasant, the impact on your body becomes more risky. An overripe banana has a very high glycemic index. It causes your blood sugar to spike faster, and that can be a big deal if you're over 60. Why? Because as we age, our ability to manage potassium, blood sugar, and blood pressure declines. The kidneys slow down, insulin sensitivity weakens, and blood vessels get stiffer. This means that something as innocent as a mushy speckled banana could raise your blood sugar sharply, increase blood pressure, and even affect heart rhythm due to the high potassium load. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 76-year-old retired librarian from Illinois. She always had 1 or 2 overripe bananas in the morning, sometimes blending them into a smoothie. She thought it was a healthy start to her day. But one morning, she felt dizzy after waking up, and her speech was slurred. Her husband rushed her to the ER. The doctors diagnosed her with a mild ischemic stroke. Her blood pressure had spiked overnight, and her potassium levels were high. They told her that while bananas weren't the only factor, the combination of sugar, potassium, and her morning dehydration created the perfect storm. Margaret made a small change after that. She started eating smaller, greener bananas, and only after drinking water and having a bit of protein. First, her energy improved, and her blood pressure became more stable. The takeaway: bananas are not the enemy, but overripe bananas, especially in large amounts or on an empty stomach, and can quietly push vulnerable seniors toward a stroke. And here's the thing. Bananas aren't the only fruit with this hidden danger. Next, let's talk about grapes. Tiny, sweet, and refreshing, but with a surprisingly high sugar load that might be even more risky. Grapes. They look harmless, don't they? Tiny, sweet, refreshing, served with lunch, tossed into salads, or offered as a light snack with the grandkids. But for someone over 60, grapes may not be as innocent as they seem. Here's why. Grapes are pure sugar in a small package. Even the seedless ones, especially the extra sweet varieties sold in most grocery stores, are packed with glucose and fructose. When you eat a handful, especially on an empty stomach, that sugar goes straight into your bloodstream, fast. As we get older, our insulin response slows down. Our blood vessels get more delicate. That sudden sugar spike doesn't just give you a quick burst of energy. It stresses your brain and heart in ways you may not even feel. Inside those fragile vessels, sugar causes tiny bits of inflammation, microscopic swelling, and damage, which the body tries to repair by forming clots. These are small at first. You won't notice them. But day after day, the risk adds up. Until one morning, you can't find your balance or your words won't come out right. That's exactly what happened to Mrs. Lyfor. Evelyn Morris, 79, a retired music teacher from Colorado. She was sharp, independent, and loved her routine, especially her mid-morning bowl of red grapes while reading. Some days she'd eat 2 cups without even thinking. Then one day, while writing a birthday card to her grandson, she noticed her hand trembling. A few minutes later, she couldn't remember how to spell congratulations. Her daughter rushed her to the ER. It was a min-stroke, a tension ischemic attack. Her blood sugar had spiked. Her labs showed low-grade inflammation and pre-diabetic markers she never knew she had. She thought she was doing everything right, but even fruit, if eaten in the wrong way, can quietly turn dangerous. So, here's what I now tell my patients. Never eat grapes on an empty stomach. Don't eat them by the bowl. Instead, enjoy a small handful and always pair them with a few almonds or a slice of cheese to slow down the sugar rush. And please avoid grapes at night. Your body needs stable blood flow while you sleep, not sugar spikes. If you're diabetic or on blood pressure medication, ask your doctor first before making grapes a regular part of your day, because even something so small can quietly become a big risk, especially when you're not watching for it. Now, if you think grapes were surprising, wait until we talk about pineapple. That sweet tropical bite you enjoy after dinner, it might be quietly interfering with your brain while you sleep. Let me explain why next. For older adults, especially those taking medication or dealing with circulation issues, pineapple can quietly create the perfect storm for stroke risk. Let me explain why. Pineapple contains a natural enzyme called bromelain. In small amounts, it may help break down protein and ease digestion, but in larger amounts, or when combined with blood thinners or medications that affect clotting, bromelain can actually disrupt your body's ability to clot properly. In plain terms, it can make your blood too thin, and that opens the door for something even more serious. Brain bleeds, a form of stroke that's much harder to recover from. But that's not the only danger. Pineapple is also very high in sugar, with a high glycemic index. That means it floods your bloodstream with sugar quickly, especially risky if you eat it after dinner when your body is slowing down and no longer burning energy. That sugar sits, circulates, and puts stress on your blood vessels while you sleep. And then there's the acid. Pineapple is one of the most acidic fruits in the grocery store. For many older adults, this can silently trigger acid reflux at night, even without burning pain. That reflux can cause tiny amounts of stomach acid to enter your airway while you sleep, lowering oxygen to your brain. This kind of low oxygen stress has been directly linked to early morning strokes, the most dangerous kind. Let me share the story of Mrs. Clara Hughes, 77, a retired choir director from North Carolina. She thought she was doing everything right. Instead of cake or cookies, she'd enjoy a few slices of fresh pineapple after dinner every night. But one morning, she woke up dizzy and couldn't walk straight. Her daughter noticed her speech was slurred. At the hospital, scans confirmed a small posterior stroke, one that affected balance and memory. Her blood sugar was high, her platelet levels were off, and tests showed signs of reflux, induced oxygen drops during sleep. It wasn't one cause. It was the combination: sugar, acid, bromelain, all from the fruit she trusted. So, here's my advice. Enjoy pineapple earlier in the day, and only in small portions. Never eat it on an empty stomach, and avoid combining it with blood-thinning medications unless your doctor approves. And most importantly, never eat pineapple before bed. Your brain needs rest and steady oxygen, not surprises, because even something that tastes light and healthy can become a silent risk, especially overnight. And if you think pineapple is risky, wait until you hear about watermelon. The fruit we all think is hydrating, but in some cases, it may be quietly dehydrating your brain. Let's talk about that next. Yes, watermelon, the summer favorite. It's light, juicy, refreshing, and 90% water. Most people think it's the perfect way to stay hydrated, especially on a warm day. But for older adults, watermelon can be quietly misleading. Here's something most people don't realize. Watermelon acts like a natural diuretic. That means it makes you urinate more, which might sound harmless until you remember that many seniors are already on water pills or blood pressure medications that also remove fluid from the body. If you eat a big serving of watermelon in the evening, especially after taking your meds, you could be setting yourself up for overnight dehydration. That's when your body loses too much fluid while you sleep, and you don't even feel it happening. So, what does that mean? When you're dehydrated, your blood becomes thicker. It flows more slowly like syrup, and that thickened blood increases the chance of clot formation, especially in narrow-aging arteries. Combine that with lower blood pressure during sleep, and you have the perfect conditions for a silent stroke. Let me tell you about Mr. Freyd. Howard Lynn Bashrar, a retired postal worker from Indiana. He was doing everything right. Walking daily, avoiding sweets, trying to stay healthy. One of his habits, after dinner, he'd enjoy 2 or 3 large slices of watermelon to cool down and stay hydrated. But one morning, he woke up dizzy. When he tried to stand, he collapsed. At the ER, his blood pressure was dangerously low, and his lab showed signs of dehydration and thickened blood. A scan confirmed a small ischemic stroke, likely caused by a clot forming overnight when his blood flow had slowed too much. Howard had no idea that the watermelon, something he saw as healthy, was pulling water out of his system, not putting it in. And when combined with his diuretic medication, it tipped the balance. So, what's the takeaway? Enjoy watermelon earlier in the day and in moderation. If you're on water pills, talk to your doctor before making it a regular habit. Pair it with electrolytes like a pinch of salt or a sip of coconut water to help your body retain hydration. And please avoid eating it at night. If you notice things like dry mouth, morning dizziness, or feeling off balance when you wake up, don't ignore those signs. They could be whispers from your body that something isn't right. Now, watermelon may be surprising, but what about oranges? A fruit that's long been praised for vitamin C and heart health. Could it really interact with your medications in a dangerous way? Let's take a closer look. Next, a glass of orange juice with breakfast. A sliced orange on the table. Maybe even tucked into a Christmas stocking by your grandkids. But here's something most seniors were never told. Oranges, and especially orange juice, you can quietly interfere with your medications. It's not just the sugar, though. 1 glass of orange juice can spike your blood sugar quickly. The real concern is a natural compound found in citrus fruits like oranges, grapefruit, and even several oranges. It's called furanocoumarin. Now, that's a big word, but here's what it does. Furanoumarin interferes with the enzymes in your liver, specifically the ones that process many common medications. When that happens, your body either holds on to too much of the drug or it doesn't process it at all. That means a blood pressure medication you've taken for years could suddenly become too strong, dropping your blood pressure too low. Or a statin for cholesterol could build up and cause muscle inflammation or brain fog. Or a blood thinner might stop working properly, leaving your blood unstable and raising your stroke risk without warning. This isn't a theory. I've seen it firsthand. Take Mr. Albert Bryant, 79, a retired bus driver from Georgia. He had a morning ritual he loved. Fresh squeezed orange juice with his breakfast taken alongside his heart and cholesterol meds. He called it his sunshine in a glass. But over time, he started feeling dizzy, lightheaded when standing, a little confused some mornings. One day, he collapsed getting out of his recliner. Doctors discovered he'd had a minor ischemic stroke, and his blood work showed dangerously elevated drug levels even though he hadn't changed his doses. What changed was his daily orange juice habit. The citrus compounds had slowed his liver's ability to break down medications his system had quietly overloaded. So, here's what I recommend to all my older patients. Limit orange juice or skip it altogether if you take medications like statins, calcium channel blockers, or blood thinners. Don't mix citrus with your pills. Ask your doctor if you're unsure. If you love citrus flavor, try a small splash of lemon or lime in water instead. It has fewer interactions. Because at this stage in life, even something as simple as an orange can tip the balance inside your body without you realizing it. And if that made you rethink your morning routine, wait until you hear what I have to say about mangoes. A sweet tropical treat that could be raising your blood sugar and slowing your liver all at once. Let's talk about it next. Soft, juicy, naturally sweet. It feels like a tropical reward, a fruit that seems too delicious to be dangerous. But if you're over 60, especially if you're taking medications for blood pressure, heart rhythm, or cholesterol, mango might be doing more harm than good. Here's why. Mango is one of the highest sugar fruits on grocery shelves. Just 1 cup of ripe mango contains nearly 45 grams of natural sugar. That's more than the sugar in a donut. Now, think about what that does to an aging body. Your insulin response is slower. Your blood vessels are more fragile. A sudden sugar spike creates inflammation inside your arteries, especially those leading to your brain. That inflammation can cause tiny cracks in the vessel walls. And what does your body do when there's a crack? It forms a blood clot to patch it up. In a younger body, this might not be a big deal. But in a senior with narrowed arteries, the clot can easily block blood flow to the brain, leading to a stroke. Mango also contains a compound called mangiferine. Sounds harmless. Right. But mangiferine can interfere with your liver's ability to process medications, especially ones that use the cytochrome P450 enzyme system. That includes many common heart, cholesterol, and blood pressure drugs. So instead of your body safely clearing those medications, they build up in your system. You don't feel it at first, until you feel dizzy, weak, or worse, until your blood pressure crashes or your heart rhythm changes without warning. Let me share a real story. Mr. William Booker Bosher's son, a retired firefighter from Nevada, decided to eat clean by replacing cookies with dried mango slices each afternoon. He was also on medication for atrial fibrillation and high blood pressure. After a few weeks, he started waking up, light-aided. One morning, he collapsed while getting out of bed. His wife noticed the left side of his face looked droopy. At the hospital, scans showed a mild ischemic stroke. Blood tests revealed that his medication levels were abnormally high despite taking the correct dosage. The cause? His liver couldn't process the drugs properly thanks to daily mango. So, here's my advice to you. If you enjoy mango, eat only a few bites, and only during the day. Never eat mango before bed. Especially not dried mango. It's even more concentrated. Always pair it with protein or fat like nuts or cheese to slow sugar absorption. And most importantly, if you're taking any prescriptions for heart or blood pressure, talk to your doctor first. Now that we've gone through these 6 surprising fruits, you might be feeling a little unsure about what's truly safe. And that's completely okay. Because recognizing the risks is the first step toward protecting your brain and heart for years to come. As we get older, even healthy habits need a second look. Fruits that once helped us may now quietly work against us, especially when mixed with medications or eaten at the wrong time. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. You don't have to give up fruit. You just have to eat it wisely. Smaller portions earlier in the day, paired with protein or healthy fat, and always with your doctor's guidance. Your brain, your heart, and your independence are worth protecting. If I told you that something as sweet and innocent as chocolate could quietly raise your risk of a life-threatening stroke, would you believe me? For seniors, stroke remains one of the leading causes of long-term disability. We often imagine cigarettes, high blood pressure, or stress as the culprits. But very few people ever look at the chocolate bars, cookies, or creamy desserts they enjoy every day. And that's where the hidden danger lies. I still remember Mrs. Linda, a 70-year-old grandmother who came to me after her mild stroke. She laughed and said, "Doctor, all I did was spoil myself with my favorite sweets." But when we looked closer, the kind of chocolate she had every night was quietly hardening her arteries and pushing her blood pressure to the edge without her realizing it. Her story is not unique. So today, I want us to sit down together and uncover 7 common kinds of chocolate that may look delicious on the outside, but silently increase your stroke risk. Before we begin, let me ask you, do you believe chocolate can be harmful to your brain health? Or do you think it's just another food myth? Type 1 if you suspect there's some truth, or type 0 if you think it's impossible. I promise you, we read and reply to every single comment, because your voice matters here. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe to Health 365 so you won't miss the important health secrets that could protect you or someone you love. Milk chocolate feels like comfort. It melts smoothly. It brings back childhood memories. And it is often given as a little treat after dinner. But hidden behind that sweetness is a dangerous mix of sugar and milk fat that your body cannot simply brush off. When you eat milk chocolate, the high sugar content raises your blood glucose quickly. At the same time, the saturated fats from milk increase your LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol that sticks to artery walls. Research from the American Heart Association has shown that seniors who consume diets rich in added sugars and saturated fats have up to a 23% higher risk of stroke compared with those who limit them. What looks like an innocent bar can actually set off a chain reaction inside your body: sticky cholesterol deposits, rising blood pressure, and arteries that become stiff and fragile. Let me share the story of Robert, a 60-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. Every night, he would relax in his armchair with a glass of milk and a few squares of his favorite milk chocolate. It seemed harmless, but over the years, his blood pressure crept up. His doctor warned him about borderline diabetes. And finally, one morning, he woke up with weakness on his left side. It turned out to be a minor stroke. Robert was shocked. He thought the danger came only from fast food or smoking, not the candy he loved. His recovery went well, but it forced him to rethink every habit. What can we learn from Robert's story? If you enjoy chocolate, switch from milk chocolate to a small piece of dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa. Dark chocolate is naturally lower in sugar and higher in flavonoids, which support healthy blood vessels. Even then, moderation is key. 1 ounce is enough to satisfy the craving without harming your arteries. And if you think milk chocolate is concerning, wait until you hear what's hidden inside white chocolate. That surprise might shock you even more. White chocolate looks elegant, smooth, and creamy, almost like a luxurious dessert reserved for special occasions. But here's the twist that surprises many people. It's not really chocolate at all. Unlike dark or even milk chocolate, white chocolate contains no cocoa solids, which means it completely lacks the natural flavonoids that normally help protect your blood vessels. Instead, what you're left with is mostly cocoa butter, sugar, and milk fat. That combination might taste indulgent, but it can quietly thicken your blood and increase triglycerides, which are fats that circulate in your bloodstream. Studies published in the journal Stroke have linked elevated triglycerides to a significantly higher chance of blood clots, the very trigger behind many ischemic strokes. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 60-year-old widow from Florida. She adored white chocolate truffles and often bought them as a little joy during her grocery trips. Margaret had no history of smoking. She stayed fairly active, and she thought her risk was low. But her yearly blood tests revealed sky-high triglyceride levels. She was puzzled until her doctor pointed to her nightly habit of finishing off a few white chocolates. Within months, she began experiencing brief dizzy spells, which turned out to be many strokes. It was a frightening wake-up call. So, What's the better choice? If you want a creamy dessert, try a bowl of Greek yogurt with fresh berries and just a sprinkle of unsweetened cocoa powder. You'll get a similar sense of indulgence, but with protein, antioxidants, and far less sugar. And if you still crave something chocolatey, remember that dark chocolate offers protective compounds that white chocolate simply cannot provide. Now, if white chocolate feels risky, the next type might alarm you even more. Because when sugar, caramel, and artificial fats combine, the impact on your arteries can be just as harmful as smoking a cigarette every day. Caramel-filled or nougat-packed chocolates like Snickers, Milky Way, or Three Musketeers may feel like the perfect pick-me-up when your energy dips. They're chewy, sweet, and comforting. But what most people don't realize is that this combination of corn syrup, sugar, and hydrogenated fats creates one of the most dangerous storms inside the body. The high glycemic load from the corn syrup spikes blood sugar rapidly, while trans fats damage the lining of blood vessels and trigger inflammation. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, people with diets high in added sugars and trans fats have significantly higher rates of insulin resistance, a condition that sets the stage for type 2 diabetes and doubles the risk of stroke. Take Daniel, a 60-year-old retired bus driver from Michigan. He used to keep a stash of candy bars in his glove compartment, saying they gave him quick energy on long drives. At first, it seemed harmless, just a treat to stay awake. But years of daily indulgence left him with a growing waistline, constant fatigue, and eventually type 2 diabetes. One winter morning, he collapsed with slurred speech and weakness in his arm. It was a stroke brought on by blocked blood vessels that had silently narrowed for years. Daniel later admitted, "I thought candy was for kids. I never imagined it could take away my health." So, what's the healthier swap? If you need a quick snack, try a handful of unsalted nuts with a few raisins or apple slices. You'll get steady energy, a fiber to keep your blood sugar stable, and none of the artery-clogging fats. If you still crave chocolate, choose a small piece of dark chocolate instead of a whole bar layered with caramel or nougat. And just when you think the danger is limited to chewy candy bars, wait until you hear about the silky cream-filled chocolates. They may look fancy, but the hidden risks inside are even more troubling. Cream-filled chocolates, whether it's a rich truffle or a soft fudge center, look like a touch of luxury. They melt in your mouth with a sweetness that feels indulgent. But beneath that creamy texture is a mix of heavy cream, condensed milk, and butter, ingredients packed with saturated fats. When eaten often, these fats make your blood thicker, raise blood pressure, and speed up the buildup of plaques inside the arteries. Once plaques harden, they can rupture and block blood flow to the brain. That's how many strokes begin quietly and then suddenly devastating. Scientists at Harvard have found that diets high in saturated fats increase the risk of cardiovascular events, including strokes, by up to 21% in older adults. It's not just about lab numbers. It's about how blood moves or struggles to move through vessels that should remain open. Imagine pumping syrup through a thin straw. That's how circulation starts to feel when saturated fats dominate the diet. Cream-filled chocolates may look harmless in a gift box, but for seniors, each bite adds invisible stress to the system. So, what's a better choice? If you crave something creamy, swap the fudge or truffle for a chilled banana blended with a spoonful of natural peanut butter. It's smooth, sweet, and satisfying, but with fiber and healthy fats that protect instead of harm. And if you still want chocolate, a small square of dark chocolate is far safer than a cream fill piece. Before we move on, let me ask you, do you still see cream chocolates as innocent? Or do you think they hide a risk? Type 1, if you believe they can be harmful, or 0, if you're not convinced. Think of Kit Kat, Twix, or Oreos coated in chocolate seem playful and harmless. The kind of treat you share at a movie night, or pull from a candy bowl at work. But what looks like fun on the outside is actually a dangerous mix of refined flour, hydrogenated oils, and sugar on the inside. The refined flour breaks down quickly into glucose. Spiking blood sugar. Hydrogenated oils, often used to give these snacks a long shelf life, are sources of trans fats that inflame and stiffen blood vessels. And the sugar content is so high that it fuels abdominal fat and metabolic syndrome, a condition strongly linked with poor circulation and clot formation. According to the National Institutes of Health, metabolic syndrome doubles the risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke in older adults. What makes this combination so risky is how it quietly works on multiple levels. Blood sugar surges damage the inner lining of arteries, while excess belly fat releases inflammatory chemicals that further strain the heart and brain. Over time, the blood becomes thicker, less able to flow smoothly, and far more likely to form clots. Those clots, once they break free, you can travel upward and block vessels in the brain, leading to sudden, disabling strokes. The irony is that these snacks are often marketed as light or fun-sized, tricking people into believing small portions are harmless, when in reality, even modest but regular consumption takes a toll. So, what's the better swap? Instead of a chocolate-coated cookie, try a square of dark chocolate alongside a handful of almonds or walnuts. You'll get the crunch, the sweetness, and even a boost of healthy fats that help blood vessels relax rather than tighten. Another option is to dip fresh strawberries in a thin layer of melted dark chocolate. Sweet, satisfying, and packed with antioxidants. Up next, we'll take a look at a type of chocolate that doesn't even come in a bar. Something many people sip before bed, without realizing the danger it may cause overnight. A warm cup of hot chocolate feels comforting, especially on a cold night. Many people see it as harmless, even wholesome. But the instant hot chocolate mixes lining supermarket shelves are often loaded with sugar and powdered milk fats. When seniors drink these mixes before bed, blood sugar rises sharply, and as the body rests, that excess sugar thickens the blood. During sleep, when circulation naturally slows, this sticky blood makes it easier for clots to form. Research from the American Stroke Association shows that strokes occurring during the night or early morning hours are especially common in older adults, often triggered by exactly this kind of metabolic stress. Let me tell you about John, a 70-year-old retiree from Illinois. For years, he ended his evenings with a steaming mug of instant hot chocolate, believing it helped him sleep. But over time, his doctor noticed worsening cholesterol and higher blood pressure. One winter morning, John didn't wake up as usual. He had suffered a stroke during the night. Thankfully, he survived. But his family was shocked to learn that his bedtime drink had quietly contributed to his health crisis. John later said, "I thought it was a comfort. I never dreamed it could put me in the hospital." What's a safer alternative? Try warming up a glass of unsweetened almond milk with a teaspoon of pure cocoa powder and just a touch of honey. This version offers the soothing flavor without the overload of sugar and fat, while still giving you the antioxidants naturally found in cocoa. So now let me ask you, do you think bedtime hot chocolate is still a harmless treat? Or could it be a hidden risk? Type 1, if you believe it can be harmful, or 0, if you think it's safe? And remember, subscribe to Health 365, so you won't miss the everyday habits that could protect your brain and heart. Up next, we'll uncover the chilling truth about chocolate-covered ice cream, a dessert that combines cold temperature with saturated fat in a way that can shock your blood vessels. Chocolate-covered ice cream bars, like Magnum, Dove, or Klondike, look like the perfect summer indulgence. Cold, creamy, and sweet, they deliver a double hit of pleasure. But inside that treat is a dangerous mix. High-fat ice cream, wrapped in a thick layer of sugary chocolate. The saturated fats in the ice cream raise LDL cholesterol, while the sugar overload spikes blood glucose. On top of that, the extreme cold temperature makes blood vessels tighten temporarily, reducing circulation just as the blood becomes heavier and thicker from fat. That 1-2 punch. Vasoconstriction, plus fatty, sugary blood. creates the perfect conditions for a clot, or sudden spasm in the brain's arteries. Researchers at the Cleveland Clinic have reported that cold, high-fat desserts can trigger vascular changes within minutes, especially in older adults with pre-existing risks. Consider Evelyn, a 60-year-old grandmother from California. On hot afternoons, she often treated herself to a chocolate-covered ice cream bar. She thought of it as a reward after gardening or spending time with her grandchildren. But after months of indulging several times a week, she began to notice sudden headaches and brief episodes of blurred vision. A medical exam revealed narrowing blood vessels in her brain aggravated by her diet. One night, she suffered a small stroke. Thankfully, she recovered. But Evelyn confessed she never suspected her favorite ice cream bars could be the culprit. What's a healthier choice? On warm days, try freezing slices of banana or grapes and dipping them lightly in melted dark chocolate. You'll enjoy the cold, sweet bite with natural fiber and antioxidants without overwhelming your arteries. Even better, blend frozen berries with plain yogurt for a creamy, cooling dessert that actually supports vascular health. Now that we've uncovered all 7 kinds of chocolate that can silently raise stroke risk, it's time to wrap up with the bigger lesson: how lifestyle choices matter more than any single snack. Today, we've uncovered 7 types of chocolate that, while delicious, we can quietly increase your risk of stroke. From milk chocolate loaded with sugar, to white chocolate stripped of protective cocoa, to candy bars packed with caramel, nougat, or cream, each treat carries its own hidden trap. Even hot chocolate before bed, or a cold chocolate-covered ice cream bar can quietly change how your blood flows. But here's the good news. Your health is not determined by a single snack. It's shaped by your daily lifestyle. Choosing dark chocolate in moderation, adding more fruits, nuts, and whole foods, staying active, and checking blood pressure regularly. These small steps protect your brain and heart far more than any short-term indulgence ever could. So, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been surprised by how a harmless treat affected your health? Share your story in the comments below. We read every single one. You ever sit down with a bowl of dried fruit or slice into a juicy melon, thinking you're doing something good for your body, maybe even feeling a little proud that you chose fruit over cookies or chips? I get it. It feels like the right thing, especially when we're trying to take care of ourselves. But what if I told you some of the fruits we reach for, the ones we believe are safe, even healthy, might be quietly doing harm? It starts small. You feel a little dizzy after snacking. Maybe your heart skips a beat now and then. Or you wake up more tired than usual, no matter how early you went to bed. So, you figure it's just age. But deep down, something doesn't feel quite right. I've sat with so many folks. Good, thoughtful people who couldn't believe that their fruit choices had anything to do with their blood pressure, blood sugar, or even the risk of a stroke because no one told them. No one warned them that sugar can hide behind a healthy label, or that some fruits, especially dried ones, don't play nice with certain medications. Today we're going to talk gently, clearly, and honestly about those quiet dangers. You won't find fear here, just truth and some simple choices you can make starting today. And before we dive in, if you've ever reached for fruit thinking it was the better choice, type 1 in the comments. If fruits never fooled you, tip 0. And make sure to hit subscribe so you stay in the loop with Health 365. Now, let's take a closer look at that first innocent snack that might be quietly hardening your arteries. You know that feeling when you sprinkle a handful of raisins onto your morning oatmeal or mix them into your salad? Thinking, this adds a little sweetness, and it's natural, so it must be healthy. That's a moment many of us have shared. But here's something we don't often realize. Raisins are tiny. Yes, but they pack a powerful punch when it comes to sugar. When grapes turn into raisins, water vanishes. But sugar concentrates. Just a handful can equal a candy bar's sugar, spiking blood sugar, and straining vessels, especially risky with diabetes, pre-diabetes, or slower aging metabolism. Now, Why does that matter for your brain? Because when your blood sugar jumps like that over and over again, the lining of your arteries starts to suffer. It becomes stiff, less flexible. The smooth flow of blood to your brain is interrupted little by little. Over time, this can increase the risk of plaque buildup, making it harder for blood to reach where it needs to go. And all that just from raisins. It might sound unbelievable, but many doctors have seen this in practice. Patients trying to do better, swapping cookies for trail mix, only to find out their healthy choice was sabotaging their efforts. One woman I spoke to had been adding raisins to her cereal every morning for years. After switching them out for a few slices of fresh pear, her blood sugar levels improved within weeks. She was shocked, but mostly, she was relieved. If you love that burst of sweetness in your breakfast or snack, try switching to a few slices of apple or a handful of berries. They're lower in sugar, more hydrating, and gentler on your blood vessels. Let's move gently to the next fruit that might seem like a summertime treat, but could be sending mixed signals to your heart. There's something comforting about cutting into a ripe cantaloupe. The color is soft, the smell is sweet, and on a warm day, it feels like the perfect healthy treat. But for some folks, especially those with kidney issues or taking certain medications, cantaloupe can quietly stir up trouble beneath the surface. Cantaloupe is rich in potassium. Normally, that's a good thing. It helps your muscles and heart function. But when your kidneys aren't working at full strength, or if you're on diuretics, your body may struggle to get rid of excess potassium. That's when things get risky. Too much potassium in the blood can cause irregular heartbeats. It doesn't always feel dramatic. You might notice some lightheadedness, maybe a flutter in your chest, but it's your heart signaling that something's off. Then there's the sugar. While cantaloupe may seem less sweet than other fruits, it actually has a fairly high glycemic index. That means it raises your blood sugar faster than you'd expect. For older adults, that quick spike can lead to an energy crash, brain fog, or a sudden drop in mood without you even linking it back to the fruit. One gentleman I worked with used to eat cantaloupe every night after dinner. It was his way of avoiding dessert, but his blood sugar kept bouncing up and down. After switching to a small portion of berries, his levels became more stable, and he didn't miss the cantaloupe nearly as much as he thought he would. So, if you enjoy cantaloupe, it's okay, but enjoy it mindfully. A few small cubes once in a while won't hurt, but eating large portions regularly, especially if your kidneys are struggling, can be more harmful than helpful. Now, let's take a look at a crunchy snack that often shows up in trail mixes and how it might be nudging your arteries toward danger. There's something oddly comforting about the crunch of banana chips. You reach into the bag thinking, it's just fruit. This can't be bad for me. They're golden, sweet, and satisfying. But the truth hiding behind that crunchy bite is less innocent than it seems. Most banana chips you find in stores aren't just dried. They're deep-fried in oils and tossed in sugar. What you're really eating is more like a sugary, greasy snack in disguise. See, the frying process adds trans fats, the kind of fat that hardens your arteries like glue. When those fats settle in, they make it harder for blood to pass through, especially to sensitive areas like the brain. And then comes the sugar. Even if you're not pouring sugar into your coffee, banana chips can deliver a surprise dose of it in every bite. It's a double blow. Fat and sugar teaming up to wear down your blood vessels and spike your blood sugar all in one go. What's tricky is it doesn't feel like junk food. You don't feel guilty eating it. It feels natural. That's what makes it so sneaky. One older gentleman I worked with kept a bowl of banana chips on his kitchen table. It was his healthy treat while watching TV. But he couldn't figure out why. He felt sluggish, dizzy, and had frequent brain fog. Once he cut back on those chips and switched to some sliced apple and a handful of almonds, his energy bounced back. So, here's the thing. You don't have to give up snacks, but you deserve snacks that love your body back. That means reading the label, skipping the deep-fried sweet stuff, and choosing foods that truly nourish. If you want crunch, roasted nuts, or crisp vegetables are a better friend to your heart and your brain. Next, Let's take a walk through a garden fruit that seems harmless, but might be playing a confusing game with your medication. Mulberries. Just saying the word brings back memories of childhood for some. Maybe you remember picking them fresh off the tree, the deep purple juice staining your fingers. They seem like nature's candy. Sweet, soft, and innocent. But even the most natural-looking foods can have unexpected effects, especially as we get older. Here's the thing with mulberries. They're often praised for their antioxidants, but they also come packed with natural sugars. And when dried, those sugars become even more concentrated. That might not sound so bad at first, but if you're taking medications to manage your blood sugar, like many older adults are, those dried mulberries can push your levels in the wrong direction fast. And it doesn't always go one way. In some people, mulberries drop the blood sugar too low, especially when taken with medication. That sudden crash can leave you elated, confused, or worse. I once spoke with a woman who had been adding dried mulberries to her breakfast, thinking they were helping her health. But she started having episodes where her hands would shake, and her mind felt foggy. Turns out the mulberries were clashing with her diabetes medication, creating a roller coaster of highs and lows that wore her out day after day. The blood vessels in your brain don't like that kind of ride. They need steady, stable energy, not sharp drops and climbs. Those ups and downs put a strain on circulation, weakening the vessel walls over time. That's when the risk of stroke starts to creep in. So, what can you do? If you love mulberries, fresh is best and in small amounts. But if you're on medication for blood sugar, talk to your doctor. Better to adjust now than be caught off guard later. Coming up next, let's explore a fruit you'll often find in granola and holiday snacks, but it hides more added sugar than you'd ever expect. Dried cranberries. Just the name sounds festive, doesn't it? You see them tossed into granola, sprinkled over salads, or baked into muffins during the holidays. Their bright color makes them look so fresh and healthful. But beneath that ruby red glow is a whole lot of added sugar that most people never notice. Cranberries, in their natural form, are actually quite tart. That's why, to make them palatable, manufacturers often coat them with sugar, sometimes more than double their weight. The result? A small handful of dried cranberries can have just as much sugar as a piece of candy. And if you're someone trying to care for your heart or keep your blood sugar steady, that's a big deal. Here's where it gets even more complicated. That added sugar doesn't just cause your blood sugar to spike, it can lead to long-term inflammation in your arteries. The walls of your blood vessels become stiff, less flexible, and more prone to plaque buildup. This makes it harder for your brain to get the oxygen-rich blood it needs. It doesn't happen overnight, but day after day, snack after snack, the damage adds up. I remember a man in his 70s who added dried cranberries to his salad every single day. He thought he was being healthy. After all, it wasn't candy or soda, but he kept having dizzy spells and strange fatigue. His doctor finally reviewed his diet, pointed to the cranberries, and gently explained how the sugar was working against him. The man was shocked and a little heartbroken, but once he replaced them with fresh blueberries, his energy improved and his blood pressure stabilized. So, here's the truth. Dried cranberries aren't evil, but they are tricky. If you love them, look for versions with no added sugar. Or better yet, reach for a few slices of orange or some fresh grapes. Your brain and blood vessels will thank you for it. Next, let's talk about a sweet golden fruit that looks harmless in your pantry, but can quietly stiffen your arteries with every bite. Apricots are one of those fruits that seem almost too gentle to cause any harm. Soft, golden, slightly tart. They feel like the kind of snack a caring grandparent would keep in a jar for visiting grandkids. And in their fresh form, apricots can be a healthy part of a balanced diet. But once they're dried, the story changes. When apricots are dried, their sugars don't just stay. They concentrate. A few pieces can feel light, but they deliver a heavy load of sugar to your system. And because they're small and easy to nibble, it's easy to eat more than you realize. That steady stream of sugar can quietly raise your blood glucose, stressing your pancreas, and hardening your arteries over time. What many people don't know is that the natural sugar in dried apricots acts just like added sugar when it comes to how your blood vessels respond. Repeated sugar spikes cause the lining of your arteries to lose flexibility. That's the first step toward atherosclerosis. A slow, silent narrowing of the vessels that feed your heart and brain. One woman I met kept dried apricots in her purse, thinking they were a smart, low-fat snack. She would pop a few every time she felt hungry. But over time, she started having high blood pressure and felt drained throughout the day. After cutting back and switching to a fresh peach or a small apple, she began to feel more balanced and alert. It's not about cutting out dried fruit completely. It's about awareness. If you enjoy apricots, try slicing a fresh one instead of reaching for the dried version. Fresh fruits come with water and fiber, helping your body process the sugars more gently and naturally. Up next, let's cool things down with a green fruit that's often seen in fruit salads, but might be quietly raising your blood pressure behind the scenes. Honeydew melon. Smooth on the outside, pale, green, and juicy on the inside. It's the kind of fruit that shows up at summer cookouts, brunch buffets, or maybe sliced neatly in your fridge. It feels light, refreshing, and healthy. But for some, especially those over 60, honeydew may be offering more sugar than your body can quietly handle. You see, honeydew is naturally high in sugar, even though it doesn't always taste super sweet. That's the sneaky part. You might think this tastes mild. It can't be that sugary. But bite after bite, it sends a steady stream of glucose into your bloodstream. And because it's so hydrating, it's easy to eat more than you realize, especially on a warm day. What happens then? Your blood sugar rises quickly. If your body can't keep up because of insulin resistance or slower metabolism with age, your arteries feel the pressure. Over time, those spikes make your blood vessels less flexible. And when blood vessels lose their flexibility, it's harder for your heart to pump blood smoothly to your brain. That's when brain fog sets in. That's when your risk of stroke begins to climb. There was a man I knew who made a fruit smoothie every morning, always with a generous chunk of honeydew. He thought it was helping him stay light and energized, but he started noticing he needed more naps, felt cloudy after breakfast, and sometimes had heart palpitations. Turns out his morning melon was giving him more sugar than he needed to start the day. If you love honeydew, you don't have to give it up completely. Just keep your portions small. About half a cup is plenty, and try pairing it with something that slows sugar absorption, like a handful of nuts. That way, you get the hydration and taste without the sugar overload. Now, let's finish with a fruit that's a beautiful blend of two favorites, but might be delivering more sweetness than your body bargained for. Pluets. A playful name, a beautiful fruit. Just looking at one, you might think, well, it's part plum, part apricot. How bad can it be? They're colorful, juicy, and show up in farmers markets like little gems in the summer. But here's what most people don't realize. Plus are one of the sweetest fruits around. And that sweetness comes with a price your blood vessels may not want to pay. Unlike their tart plum ancestors, pluets have been bred to be extra sugary. That means even a small piece delivers a fast, sharp hit of sugar to your bloodstream. If your body is already working hard to manage blood sugar, whether from diabetes, pre-diabetes, or just the natural changes that come with aging, Plu can tip the balance without warning. And the problem isn't just the sugar. It's the speed. Your blood sugar spikes quickly, forcing your body to scramble. Your pancreas pumps out insulin. Your arteries tense up under the pressure. Over time, this repeated stress wears down the walls of your blood vessels, especially those that serve the brain. What feels like a simple summer snack can turn into a long-term burden on your circulation. One older gentleman I knew would slice up a plot out after dinner, thinking it was better than pie. But he noticed he'd wake up during the night feeling restless, sometimes with a pounding heart. After a checkup, his doctor suggested watching his evening fruit choices. He swapped the Plu for a few slices of kiwi and finally got a full night's sleep again. If you enjoy pluets, Treat them like a dessert, not a daily habit. A few slices once in a while, maybe with some protein or healthy fat, can help soften the sugar impact. It's not about fear, it's about balance. Now that we've uncovered the hidden side of these fruits, let's bring it all together and talk about what it means for your health, your choices, and your future. So now you know some of the fruits that look the most innocent can quietly cause the most harm when we're not paying attention. It's not about blaming the fruit. It's about how our bodies change with age, how our needs shift, and how what once worked might not work the same anymore. But here's the good news. Small changes make a big difference. Swapping a dried fruit for something fresh, cutting back on the overly sweet fruits, and choosing ones that are kinder to your blood vessels. These aren't sacrifices. They're gifts. You give your future self. You deserve to feel clear, steady, and strong. Your brain, your heart, your entire body thrives when you give it the care it needs, especially in these years when you've earned the right to feel your best. So, next time you reach for that snack, just pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this serving my health or just my habit? Thank you for spending this time with me today. And wherever you are on your health journey, know this: you're not alone. There's always something you can do, and there's always time to begin. Take care of yourself. You matter more than you.